So now we shall be starting about charitable companies. Earlier we have studied about one person company. Now we shall be studying about charitable companies, that is section 8 companies. Now what does this mean? Section 8 of the Act provides for formation of companies with charitable objects. Therefore, they are called as Section 8 companies. So, what are these companies? The main objective of these companies shall be for the purpose of charitable trust. So, what all shall be included in charitable companies? Charitable companies can be incorporated even for the purposes of sports, education, research, protection of environment, etc. Charitable companies may be a private or a public or one person company. So, charitable companies can be for the purpose of sports, education, research, protection of environment, etc. Charitable companies may be either private company, public company, or one person company. Even firm may be a member of the company registered under Section 8. Such company should have charitable objects and intention to use its profit. In promoting the charitable objects of the company, such companies will not make the payment of any individuals to its make any payment of any dividends to its members. So, this charitable trust, as we know, charitable trusts are formed for the purpose of providing service, and they do not have the intention or the main objectives to make profits, but they shall use the profits in promoting the company or the purpose for which such companies are formed. Such companies will not make payment of any dividend to its members. So they shall not be making any payment of dividend to its members. The central government has got authority to grant a license for incorporating a charitable company. Charitable companies can be converted into any other form of company, even a charitable company. Companies, private limited or public limited company, can get itself converted into charitable companies if it is proved to the satisfaction of central government that it is formed with charitable objects. So, central government shall grant licenses for incorporating companies into charitable companies, and they have given the right to public company and private company. Here we have to see that OPC is not given the right of conversion. OPC can be formed. OPC cannot be converted into charitable companies. We have seen about this in the earlier class also. So only private company and public company shall have the right to convert itself into charitable companies, provided that the charitable companies prove to the satisfaction, that is, they satisfy the central government that it is formed with the object of having charitable things or doing some charity towards the society and development. Why are charitable trusts formed? These are formed for the purpose of serving society, and what is the benefit of forming such society is they get a lot of tax benefits. So for enjoying tax benefits, many people form themselves as charitable companies. But when a charitable company is formed, the Companies Act 2013 has stated that central government shall be giving licenses to everyone for the purpose of forming charitable trust. Such companies will have certain tax benefits under the Income Tax Act. Moreover, they can also enjoy privileges of limited companies. A charitable company can be amalgamated only with the charitable company. However, the other company should have objects similar to the objects of this company. So, if they are giving you tax benefit, they have certain rules and regulations, because in no condition government will give any benefit of tax, because that is the only source of income through which government can function for the development of the society. So so it is stated that if a charitable company wants to get amalgamated means if a charitable company wants to mix with another company, in that case it has to have objects similar to that of the company. So both the companies which are in a process or which are in a plan to come together shall have similar objects, or both should function on similar matters. It is to be noted that charitable companies cannot alter memorandum or articles without obtaining approval from the central government. So, the charitable trust cannot alter memorandum, cannot make changes in the memorandum of association or articles without obtaining the approval from the central government. The license of charitable company can be revoked by the central government under the following circumstances. So, there are certain circumstances under which the government has the right to revoke the licenses which are given to charitable company in case if it contravenes the provision of section 8, that is, whatever is stated in section 8 shall be completed if it violates conditions subject to which license is issued. So, the conditions, or so if the charitable trust does not complete whatever is mentioned in the subject to which license was issued to the company, in that case, the government shall have the right to revoke the license given by the company to the charitable company. If the affairs of the company are conducted fraudulently or by violating objects of the company, and if it is against the public interest. So, if the company's affairs are conducted fraudulently, means whatever is working in the company is taken fraudulently, or certain frauds are being caught by the government, or whatever objects were stated are not being fulfilled, and the objects which were not stated have been started, in that case the government shall have right to cancel the license which is available with them. Further, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has simplified procedure for the registration of Section 8 company, and it enjoys the several privileges and limited liability status even without adding the words limited or private limited under the provisions of Companies Act 2013. So, Ministry of Corporate Affairs have simplified the procedure for forming Section 8 company, and they have stated that it shall enjoy several privileges like limited liability status even without adding the words limited or private limited. So, this is the benefit which is given by Companies Act 2013. In order to be eligible for tax exemption status under the income tax provision section 8, company can apply for registration under section 12A of the Companies Act 1961 to get the tax exemption on their taxable income, and also can apply for ATG certificate to enable donors to claim tax rebates against their donations. So, section 80G states that if people have given you help, or if donations have been done by people, in that case they can obtain that certificate and they can get tax benefit. From private individuals also can get tax benefit if they file ATG exemption. This is an exemption which is given under the Companies Income Tax Act to the Companies Act. So, this is one of the rebates which shall be available to the tax to the donors against tax. Further, Section 8 company can also accept the donation, contribution and fund from the a person resident outside India or foreign entity through the foreign exchange, so subject to compliance of the provisions of FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999, and Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. So, it states that if a company is a charitable company, in that case it can receive amounts from public, that is from residents or from the person who is resident outside India or a foreign entity, provided the provisions which are stated in FEMA, that is Foreign Exchange Management Act, and Foreign Contribution Act 2010 have been stated. Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry FICCI and Confederation of Indian Industries are the famous examples of Section 8 companies. The objective of these companies is to facilitate the growth of trade and commerce and India. So this Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Confederation of Indian Industry are some of the famous examples of Section 8 companies. So and they are formed with the objective of growth of public in trade, commerce and India. Commerce in India. It is in India, not and India. Now, what are the features of Section 8 company? Following are the distinct features of Section 8 companies. First is charitable objective. Objective of such company is not to make profits. Their objectives are purely charitable in nature. So, as we know that these are charitable trusts, so so its main objective shall be to purely give charity to the people or help people in the society, and it is not to make profits. No minimum share capital. There is prescribed minimum paid up share capital for such companies. There is no minimum paid up share capital for the for such companies, that is Section 8 company. Then we have limited liability. Members of those companies can only have limited liability. Their liabilities cannot be made unlimited. They shall have unlimited liabilities and it cannot be made into unlimited liability. Government licenses. Central government's license is not necessary for such companies. The government can revoke this license as well. So, government license, that is central government's license, is necessary for such companies, and the government can revoke this license as well. Privileges. This has accorded several benefits and exemptions, such as such company exemptions to such companies. There are many privileges which are given, which we shall be studying. Then for firms as members, apart from individuals and association of persons, Section 8 allows firms to be members of these companies. So not only individuals and associations of person, Section 8 also allows firms to be the members of these companies. Then it is important to note that such companies can only be limited companies. These are all limited companies. Advantages of Section 8 companies. People generally prefer to conduct charitable activities by forming Section 8 companies instead of regular NGOs and associations. This is because they have limited liability, so their personal assets will not be used in paying debts of the company. Here are some advantages of that these companies enjoy. So, what are the advantages? Firstly, members have limited liability. As we know, it is a charitable trust, so members shall have limited liability. Then, no minimum capital requirement. They get several tax exemptions. This is the main reason for which charitable companies are formed. Then stamp duties and high fees are not payable for registration. Since they are for charity and their motto is not to create profit, so all these exemptions are available. They have perpetual existence and separate legal status. Exemptions from carrying out several procedural compliances. More credibility than compared to NGO societies and trusts because they are recognized by the central government's license. So these are the certain benefits which are given to Section 8 companies. I hope you have understood all of them because I have explained you about them earlier. Next, what are the disadvantages of Section 8 companies? Despite numerous merits, these companies also have the following drawbacks. Members of the company cannot get any dividend. They shall not get any dividend. So, people shall think before investing. Officers and director do not get benefits and allowances. As it is not a profit association, so the members and directors do not get benefits and allowances. Can only use the profits for furthering charitable aims and objectives. If in case a company is having profits, in that case the main aim shall be to use those profits in for the charity and creating more opportunities in the society. Amendment of memorandum and article requires certain central government's permission. The license is revocable on several grounds. So these are the disadvantages of Section 8 companies. I hope you have understood Section 8 companies. Features, advantages, disadvantages. This is one of the important question which generally comes into your papers. Next, we have dormant companies. Now, what do you mean by a dormant company? And we shall study about dormant companies in detail. Where a company is formed and registered under Companies Act for a future project or to hold an asset or intellectual property and has no significant accounting transaction, such a company or an inactive company may make an application to the registrar in such a manner as may be prescribed for obtaining the status of a dormant company. So, what does this say? That what is a dormant company? So, dormant company means which is formed and registered under Companies Act for a future project or to hold an asset or intellectual property that has no significant accounting transaction. So, which has not been working for a certain period due to some reasons. Reasons may be any, provided the company, provided the court or the provided the Companies Act, the registrar is satisfied that the reasons which are given for a company being dormant company are valid and are appropriate under the Companies Act. So such a company or an inactive company may be make an application to the registrar in such a manner as may be prescribed for obtaining the status of a dormant company. Then we have inactive company, means a company which has not been carrying on any business or operation or has not made any significant accounting transaction during the last 2 financial years or has not filed financial statements or annual returns during the last 2 financial years. When a company can be declared as a dormant or an inactive company where there has been no business or operation that is carrying out or during the last 2 financial years and has not filed any financial statements or annual return for the 2 financial years. Then next, significant accounting transaction means any transaction other than A. Payment of fees by a company to the registrar, B. Payments made by to it to fulfill the requirement of this act or any other law, allotment of shares to fulfill the requirement of this act, and payment of maintenance of its office and records. So so in this they have given what does significant accounting transaction mean. Significant accounting transaction means payment of fees made by a company to the registrar, then payments made to fulfill the requirements of the act or the law, that is to start a company whatever is required, then allotment of shares is made, payment of maintenance of its office and records. You have an office and all the records of the company are maintained properly and all the office people, that is the staff, is hired and there are other basic provisions which are completed. This provision would help promoters to rapidly incorporate companies. Companies can be incorporated and kept aside, and when one needs to start business, it is possible that they can either make their dormant company active or else buy a dormant company from any person who intends to sell it. So, these provisions are that the promoters can incorporate companies and keep it aside, and when they need to start a new business they can take these companies and start their business because they already the legal formalities and already the basic processes which are required to start a company are already complied. So many businessmen, what they do, they prefer to have dormant company and they then sell it to other people and earn money out of it. Status: dormant company is a status given to such a company which fulfills the above mentioned criteria and applies to register for the purpose of getting status of a dormant company. So the person who has incorporated the company shall apply to the registrar for getting the status of a dormant company. Remember, dormant company status has been introduced in Companies Act 2013. In the 1956 Act, these provisions were not much significant, and the status of which was given to dormant companies generally shut down over a period of time. Then, eligibility to make application. A company formed and registered under this act can acquire the status of dormant company. In other words, companies which were registered under the old act Act are now entitled to make an application for such a status. Status of dormant company is given by the register only when it has failed to file its financial statements or annual returns or for 2 financial years consecutively. The company is registered under new act and having failed to file these returns for 2 financial years consecutively. Means what? That companies which have failed to file their financial returns shall gain the status of dormant company, and the companies which are not registered under Companies Act 2013 shall firstly need to register themselves under Companies Act 2013. Only then they can get the benefit of having a dormant company, that is the status of having a dormant company. And the registrar shall only file a company or shall only state a company to be a dormant company if the financial statements or annual returns are not filed for 2 financial years consecutively, that is 2 years one behind the other. It does not mean that 1 year then there is again you carry out some business, again you stop. No, 2 consecutive years. So this is the rules which are stated in Companies Act 2013. Now formalities to be completed. It is not obligatory upon a dormant company to prepare cash flow statement with its financial statement, and it needs to hold only board meeting once in 6 months. The government has authority to grant certain exemptions to a dormant company from applications of any provisions of this act. Further, such a company has to do 2 things. 1. Maintain minimum number of directors, and 2. File such documents and pay some prescribed annual fees. So, what are the formalities to be completed for a company to get a status of dormant company? So, firstly, it shall be required. It is not obligatory to form cash flow statements with its financial statements. It needs to hold a board meeting. So, filing of cash flow statements is not compulsory, but holding a board meeting once in 6 months is compulsory, and it shall grant certain exemptions to dormant company applications such as maintain minimum number of directors, file such documents, and pay some prescribed annual fees. Next is striking of dormant companies. The registrar is under an obligation to strike off the name of a dormant company from the register of dormant companies if it has failed to comply with the requirements of a dormant company. So now this states that the company, even the name of the dormant company, for this also there are certain requirements to be fulfilled for a company to be a dormant company. Otherwise their name shall be striken off. Means what? That name shall be taken off from the register of Companies Act. So if it has failed to comply with the requirements of a dormant company, however, striking off from the register of dormant company does not result in removal of the name of the registrar. Means what? That striking does not mean that they shall remove the name from the register. It shall be available in the register, but it shall not be seen. Meeting. It is sufficient if at least one meeting of the board of directors has been conducted in each half of a calendar year. The gap between 2 meetings should not be less than 90 days in case of dormant companies. So how many times meetings shall be held? We have seen about that, and at least one meeting to be held for a half year of a calendar year, means out of after 6 months the gap between 2 meetings shall not be less than 90 days. It is possible for the central government to grant more procedural relaxations to the dormant company under provisions of section 462 1. So there shall be for the government company, it shall grant certain exemptions provided it is proof that a company is a proper dormant company. Now next we have sick company. Sick company is a company which is not in a position to pay its outstanding debts. Means what? Now remember, dormant company means is a different company and sick company is a different company. So sick company is a company which is not in a position to pay outstanding debts, and the secure creditors of company representing 50% or more of its outstanding of its amount of debt are required to serve notice on company to pay the due day pay the due within 30 days. If the company fails to pay the debt within 30 days of the service of notice of demand, or to secure or compound it to the reasonable satisfaction of the creditors, any secured creditor will have the right to file an application to the National Company Law Board Tribunal with evidence for a determination that the company be declared as a sick company. There are ample provisions for the revival and rehabilitation of sick companies under the new Act 2013. In such a case, the company has to prepare and submit a scheme of revival of sick company while making references to NCLT. The details regarding this are discussed in the chapter 10 of this book. So, about sick company, we shall be studying in chapter 10. So we shall just go through this concept because we have, and this concept shall be again studied in chapter 10th, which shall be the chapter of our syllabus. Now next we have small company. What do you mean by a small company, and how does a small company function? Prior to the enactment of the Act 2013, the concept of a small company does not exist in the corporate laws in India. As per Section 285 of the Act, small company means a company other than a public company. Paid up share capital which does not exceed rupees 50 lakhs or such higher amount as may be prescribed, which shall not be more than rupees 5 crores or more. So for small company, a company to be called as small company, they have given certain conditions. So what are they? In which we have, firstly, the amount shall not exceed 50 lakhs or more, and or such higher amount as may be prescribed, which shall not be more than 5 crores. That is, shall not exceed 50 lakhs or may not be more than 5 crores. Then next is turnover of which as per its last profit or loss account due does not exceed rupees 2 crores or such higher amount as may be prescribed, which shall not be more than 20 crores. So the profit in last year, profit and loss account which is there, shall not exceed 2 crores, and the maximum amount which shall be 20 crores. If it goes beyond 20 crores, it shall not be stated as a small company, provided that nothing in this clause shall apply to a holding company or a subsidiary company, a company registered under Section 8, a company or a body corporate governed by any special act, private company, one person company, and company other than public company can be small company. Under the old act, private company and public company was distinguished. However, as per new act, it is expected that all exemptions should not be blindly extended to private companies. However, it should be extended to certain selected companies which are smaller, limited in size and scale. This separate framework of small companies would encourage more entities to opt for a corporate framework. Now, we shall be studying about the advantages. What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of having a small company? Advantages of having a small company. Minimum formalities, less procedural simplifications are prescribed for small companies. It is likely that government may grant certain exemptions to small companies, such as only 2 board meetings in a year, lesser disclosures, and no need to disclose cash flow statements of the company. So the company shall have minimum formalities. That is, there shall be very simplified procedures for the small companies, and government may grant certain exemptions to small companies, such as having only 2 board meetings in a year and no need to disclose the cash flow statements of the company. Then additional advantage. A small company having legal entity of a private company or an OPC. In such a case, the additional benefit of such a status can be availed by such small companies. Restructuring is easy. A small company can enter into various kinds of contractual mergers without approaching the tribunal. So, in a small company, there shall be very little legal formalities, and it can be formed either as a private company or an OPC, and the additional benefits shall be availed by small companies. There shall be more additional benefits which shall be availed by small company. Then restructuring is easy, and mergers are without approaching the tribunal. Means what? Mergers can be done without approaching the tribunal. Now next we shall study about disadvantages of a small company. The benefits and exemptions are largely dependent on the rules and notifications passed by the government from time to time. So the small companies shall have certain benefits and exemptions which are dependent, and notification shall be passed by the government from time to time. Then all the liabilities which are cast on a private company or OPC, except those are exempted, will be applicable to small companies. So which are with the liabilities which are cast on private companies or OPC will be exempted and will be applicable to small companies. So this is about small companies. We shall be studying more about small companies again, and we shall stop here, and next concept shall be listed company, which we shall be starting in the next class.